Anyone here watch Reading Rainbow, or was a fan of
Yeah.
Star Trek?
I grew up on that, and when he was in Star Trek Next Generation, I was like, "Hey, it's my guy from Reading Rainbow." I was so excited.
LeVar Burton. Grae, what about you?
No.
No, so mostly it is a U.S. thing, right? Reading Rainbows, like that was
Yeah.
like, you know, like it was on what was that, PBS, and you know, it's like he'll read books and stuff like that. So I guess there are some books that LeVar Burton really, really wants to read kids, but Moms for Liberties don't want it. So let's go and read this article. It comes to us from Bounding the Comics. Star Trek actor LeVar Burton threatens to physically assault members of Moms for Liberty who don't want small children reading sexually explicit material in school libraries. Yeah, so the person who read books to you on Reading Rainbow wants little kids to read sexually explicit material in school libraries. And if you don't let little kids read sexual explicit material in school libraries, he's going to physically assault you.
Yikes.
So, Dan, coming from a person who is a fan of LeVar Burton, I'm not sure if you're still a fan of him now. How do you feel about this?
Well, like I said, when I was young and a child and coming up into junior high school and high school area, yes, I was a huge fan of him because we didn't have Twitter. And we didn't know what these people thought unless they were interviewed, and that was rare. I'm not saying Twitter's bad for that. I think, you know, Twitter, TikTok, there's all this talk, especially from conservatives or people who identify that way, to ban it. I don't want it banned because I want to know what these people think. And I'm glad that we know what they think. And if the price of them coming out and revealing themselves is that my admiration as a child is the price, then I accept the price because, yes, I was a fan. And then he started opening his big fat mouth just like George Takei did and revealed himself to be a complete hypocrite. Oh, look at me. I was put in an internment camp. Let's put people in internment camps for not getting a genetic experimental gene therapy. Anyway, LeVar Burton. Yeah, when he started running his fucking mouth about stuff that he shouldn't be, and now it turns out that he wants basically porn in little kids' school. And of course, if you don't like it, he will physically attack you. For me, and for those of us who've been paying attention, this is par for the course. You don't trust a male feminist. You don't trust any member of the LGBT. They will turn on you, ladies. Ladies, this is your fault. The feminists brought this about themselves. And now, well, Moms for Liberty, I wouldn't call them feminists, but the fact that he would come out and say this, everyone's very shocked. I'm not shocked because, unfortunately, I've come to expect this from people who identify as the moral Puritans. They will always resort to violence. I think that's rule 4 of their social justice warrior. They will always resort to violence. They will always wish death and destruction upon the heretic, the blasphemer. And yeah, it's disgusting. And when you say things like, well, you don't think that there should be porn in school, the problem isn't that there's porn in school. The problem is that you don't want kids to learn about this cultural mandate that we have. The message must be taught.
Yep.
So yeah, screw this guy.
What about you, Grae?
Yeah, I don't think I can expound more on what Dan said, but yeah, it's not surprising behavior anymore, especially we've been covering these kinds of things for the longest time. It's like they always seem to target children for some reason. It's like you wouldn't be having a problem if these content was placed in the adult section for people who are more matured, more developed minds who know the do's and don'ts. But you're targeting children for Christ's sake. They don't know a thing about these things. Like you never thought about your sexual identity when you were 5 years old. It's like what like imagine how skewed their way of thinking will be in the future and for the rest of their life if it messed it up at that early of an age. It's like, what could have been a good life for them, you messed it up psychologically and mentally and emotionally because of you pushing these, as Dan said, the so-called message to children who are not supposed to be exposed to this yet. I mean, they should just be naturally children, like playing with others, learning more about life, vocabulary, mathematics. That's the stuff they should be learning, not this sexually explicit material. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's so exhausting and disgusting, but yeah, we need to keep calling them out and call them for their BS.
Yeah.
And I have a family member who actually does teach in. She's a teacher, and she teaches. I think she was teaching middle school, now she's teaching high school, and she always, she's part of that community, and she's my sister, and I love her, but we disagree on this, and it's one of those weird things where she'll listen to me because I'm her brother, and I won't yell at her or anything. I'll just explain to her, like, this is a problem, and there's a line that's being crossed here, and I think that you shouldn't. And she'll understand in her head, like intellectually, she'll get it. But I can see her wincing, and I can see her pulling back, and I can see her tensing up because emotionally, morally, she's not supposed to agree with me. And yeah, and I try to keep it very clinical. Like, listen, it's not that you don't want kids to be accepting of all people. It's just that you can't talk about certain subjects without talking about sex, and you shouldn't be talking about sex to little kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. It's that simple. And she'll agree, and then she'll tell me about, oh yeah, well, I have a child she's she's confused about her biological gender.
Oh my God.
And this and that. And I stopped her. I said, okay, well, first of all, did you talk to her about her confusion? It's like, well, I let her know that I'm a safe person she can talk to. I said, but did you use the word biological gender? She goes, well, yes. I said, that's not a correct term. There's no such thing as biological gender. There's biological sex, and then there's gender identity and expression. Those, one's psychological, one is physical. She's like, no, I get that. I understand. It's just that I can't say that word. I said, we can't use the S word with kids. I'm like, and I looked at her and I said, that's what I'm talking about. You're gonna be an ally. You're gonna talk to them about their identity. You can't even speak properly because you're censoring yourself. You can't talk to them about certain things, but how are you supposed to talk about this stuff if you don't refer to those things?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, no, I get it. Yeah, she understands in her brain, but she's in the cult.
Yeah.
So she can't emotionally,
does not compute. Yeah.
Well, it computes. She just can't.
I can't say it. There's a program. It's not allowing me to say it.
If she speaks up, she'll be canceled. So it's awful. It's just the members of the cult are prisoners of the cult. The leaders of the cult are prisoners of the cult. Everyone who's a member of the cult is a prisoner of the cult. The weird thing is that, like all cults, they want to spread. They want more prisoners. They want more people to be imprisoned with them. I guess misery loves company.
Yeah. Yo, patriotic guest adult with the $5 says nothing. Yo, thank you so much for the $5. Thank you.
Enough said.
Thanks for the support. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. All right, let's go ahead and read this crazy article. Let's see what he actually said. Let's see. LeVar Burton, known for his role as Geordi LaForge in Star Trek and presenting in the children's show Reading Rainbow on PBS Kids, recently threatened to physically assault members of Moms for Liberty. According to Publishers Weekly, LeVar Burton hosted a National Book Awards, opened the ceremony by stating, "Before we get going, are there any Moms for Liberty in the house? No? Good. Then hands will not need to be thrown tonight." Okay, I'm not sure if he was saying that, just to be funny, but like, I'm pretty sure in a way he does want to
it's a half joke that's and half serious. That's the tone that he's going for.
Yeah. Let's see. It's unclear why Burton threatened Moms for Liberty members, but Burton did recently give an interview to Esquire that was published the same day his remarks were given at the National Book Awards. In the interview, he was asked, "In all of your advocacy work, do you hear anything from young people affected by the book bans?" He responded, "Here's the thing. I think it's the responsibility of the adults in the room to advocate for those kids, because in many cases, they don't know what they are missing. And they won't know what they're missing because they won't get it, because these people are in some case being successful." He added, "One of the things I'm most thrilled about is that hardly any candidates backed by Moms for Liberty won their races. There are bright spots, but these are people who would rather children not know the truth. Those kids will never know what they're missing, but it's our job to stand up for them, to be their voices, and their advocates. That's what's being an elder is in society means to me. Now, here's the thing, though. Who are you to say what those parents' kids should read or not read, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, you should read this, you should read this. But the thing is that if those parents says, oh, I don't want my kid to be reading this. Let's say if it's just like Goosebumps or something like that, or maybe, I don't know, Animorphs, if people still read those, right? It's, who cares? It's the parents' kids, not your kids. Like, and if it's a library thing, you know, like, in my opinion, it should, you have like, you know, like sexually explicit content in the school libraries? I don't think so, right? But the thing is that, like, if it is, you know, you can't go into that section. I don't know, especially you're talking about young kids, right? Before I continue, I already see some suggestively like text over here. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I
about
can
this
see
so far?
that.
Well, he's a fucking liar. He started off pretty well. He was like, you know, as elders in our society, we need to advocate for kids. I think Moms for Liberty was founded on that very principle.
Yep.
But the problem with these, you know, Marxists is that they think that they're the only ones advocating for kids and for anyone, and that theirs is the right way. They don't realize that the enemies that they're up against also are advocating for them, and in this case, to keep them innocent. As far as him, you know, when he goes on to say, like, well, they'll never know what they're missing. Bullshit. You know why?
Yep.
Because kids, never mind the fact that porn is free on the internet. Never mind that kids, the current generation will be the most tech-savvy generation in human history. Put that aside for a second. They grow up. The fact is, kids grow up and they will discover things like sex. They will discover things like relationships and hooking up, and all that is going to happen. Most parents, and I'm not a parent myself, but I have plenty of nieces and nephews, so I have family members that the thought of them, you know, not, you know, you only have so many years where they're innocent. And then eventually they're going to grow up and they're going to become, you know, teenagers, and they're going to have to deal with all that stuff. I remember going through it. All of us remember going through that period. It's a bumpy ride. They're going to learn. And so you don't have to be the one to say, well, at 8 years old, we have to be the ones to guide. No, you don't. No, you don't. They're going to figure it out. And that's not even counting fact that, like, you know, remember I said fourth grade boys. The South Park kids are accurate representations of fourth grade boys. They will find the titties. They will find the ass. They will discover it on their own. They don't need your help. And in fact, thinking about it, if you want to be the adult in the room while the kids are looking at titties and ass, that's just weird. That's not just weird. That is one of those things where maybe we ought to take a look at your hard drive there, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, because, yeah, so obviously he's a liar. And the question that Moms for Liberty always puts forth is, you know, don't ask why you don't want kids to see the porn. Ask why you adults want an audience of children. That's the more important question.
Yeah. What about you, Grae? How do you feel? I think you're muted.
Yeah, it's color red. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. According to what Dan said, that's correct. But for me, it's like, as an elderly, blah 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 blah. I don't see that as a good way of articulating. I see that as a way of sugarcoating it. He's veiling it, and he's trying to frame it in such a way like he's doing the right thing, but in actuality, he has that self-awareness that he's not. So I think of it as more malicious, actually, compared to how Dan described it. It's like you're trying to make it sound like you're incredibly principled, but in actuality, you have more selfish, nefarious reasons, because you know that this is a child, early developing mind. So it's very easy to exploit them and do, yeah. There's gotta be something in your hard drives that you don't want people to see, or else you're gonna be behind bars for the rest of your days.
Yeah, let's see. Let's continue. According to the Moms for Liberty's website, what the organization opposes is sexually explicit material in school libraries. Their website notes they oppose books in school libraries that have graphic showings of sex acts not in a medical or educational way, extreme profanity, detailed descriptions of masturbation, oral, anal, and vaginal sex, forced oral sex, rape and sexual assault, incest, pedophilia, and the teachings kids of how to use sex apps and what websites to use. I think that Everyone should vouch for this, to have that shit not to have to be in school, especially for young kids. I can see it maybe for like high school, right? If you like, people are discovering the sexuality and stuff like that. But during that time, people already know what it is. All right, but let's continue. Speaking with Newsweek last November, Moms for Liberty's co-founder Tiffany Justice told the outlet, "We are not looking to ban any books." She then referenced calls for Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett's book to be canceled. There were people that don't want the book to be published. That's banning books. Our moms are not saying write the book, publish the book, print the book, sell the book wherever you like to sell it, but just don't put them in a public school library if it has explicit sexual content in it, right? You have these genderqueer stuff, these books that I saw all over the internet. People are basically showing how to like do these sexual acts, teaching kids how to use Grindr. Are you freaking kidding me, man? It's like
not even Tinder.
Yeah, not Tinder. Grindr. Yeah,
we're gonna make insane. You gay.
You got it. If you're gonna teach them anything about sex, it has to be gay sex, right? But yeah, it's insane, man. It's insane. Let's see. The organization also responded to Burton's threat, writing on X, "American moms weep as children's favorite Reading Rainbow calls for physical attacks against us because we were protecting the innocence of our children." They added, "LeVar Burton, why have you sunk so low? Threatening physical violence against women?" Right? Oh, man. Burton is no stranger to insane comments and threats such as this one. Back in 2021, he claimed that cancel culture was misnamed and should instead be called consequence culture. During an appearance on The View, of course, The View, Burton was asked about Dr. Seuss estate discontinuing 6 of their books. He said, "It's interesting because I just, for the Seuss Foundation, did a voiceover for the video that they have put together to remind us that Dr. Seuss is more than simply a company that's decided to put a couple of books on the shelf to take them out of that rotation. That man, Theodore Giselle, Dr. Seuss, is responsible for generations of wholesome, healthy, wonderful, imaginative, creative content for children for all ages. And I think we need to put things in perspective, right?" Basically a bunch of stuff was removed. If you guys don't know in the chat, a lot of things were removed because they think that Dr. Seuss was racist, or it's not okay to say these kind of things anymore. But yeah, he then addressed cancel culture. In terms of cancel culture, I think it's misnamed. That's a misnomer. I think we have a consequence culture, and the consequences are finally encompassing everybody in its society, whereas they haven't been ever since in this country. Yeah, this guy's a fucking crazy person, man. This guy's a crazy. Burton also previously indicated he assumes the worst in white people no more than they do of him. The user questions Burton, "Is it possible that you just assume the worst about white people due to their race?" He responded, no more that white people do for me because of mine." So yeah, what man, reading for books. And then he talks about, we should have pornography for little kids. Overall, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say he, and by he I also mean they, the purveyors of the message, the clergy, are very selective on what they want banned. They want pictures and words that are unacceptable, that are haram and blasphemous, banned. But here's the new message that we're giving, and it's all porn. Porn good, racist depictions, and I wouldn't even say they're racist depictions, really. They're racist by today's standards, yes. But the lack of nuance for these things that happened in the past, a lot of these things that we call racist today were in their time actually very progressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think about in the past, like if you ask a progressive, do you think things are more racist now than they were in the past? They have a hard time answering because they don't actually know. But the answer is obviously no. It was a lot more racist in the past, which means that even if you included what you would consider today to be a stereotypical picture of it was the Chinese guy. He had like the straw hat and the ponytail, and he was running in one of Dr. Seuss's books. I don't even consider that a racist drawing, just because I know what Chinese people at that time looked like.
Mm-hmm.
That was the way they dressed. So, and if you think that back then it was like it was a more, white centric, if you want to call it that time, it was. but he didn't portray that person in a negative light. He portrayed him as a positive, as like, here's a bunch of people, and this was included. So he was actually being inclusive for his time by not depicting him as something negative. So if you understand the nuances of history, then you understand that a lot of the stuff is just red herring and going back and trying to judge things based on today's standard, which, if you want to call it a standard, it's pretty fluid. But the point is that any morally normal, middle of the road, milquetoast person today, you send them back 500 years, and they're the most progressive person on Earth. You go back, you go forward in 500 years, they're the most repressive, conservative person on Earth. So you really can't. You have to judge these things according to their time. And as far as LeVar Burton being like, oh well, white people, judge me because of my race, not the ones who read.
Yep.
We're the ones judging you based on your words because we read.
Yep. Yeah, this guy's crazy. Yeah, but Grae, do you believe that this guy should be near kids?
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like my entire point is like, I sincerely hope that it's not yet too late for this guy, but I get the feeling that there is stuff, yeah, as Dan said, there is stuff in his hard drives. Because like, as Jeremy says, right, the ones who talk the loudest have the most to hide.
Thanks for checking out this segment of the Project Eggroll podcast. If you like what we do here, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you will know next time when we go live. We do go live every Saturday at 8 p.m. Once again, we are just getting started. Tons of more video to come. Thanks, and we'll see you guys next time.